And that's I don't know that we have even set it as an important goal, but it is.
Whose job is that?
I think that's all of our jobs.
It's our goal. Mm-hmm. It's a goal of leaders and citizen groups and citizens in general in the African American community.
You know, I try to ask all the good questions, and I'm not going to let you guys off the hook. That's why I asked. You know, because this is. And I keep saying this. You know, this is historic moment. Shit, I appreciate this, but Mayor, you made a good point. But in my opinion, my philosophy is until we are involved in the economic game, especially here in Delaware, City of Wilmington, Newcastle County, a lot of times they're going to be boxed out. You got to be in the do you guys agree? We have to have an economic.
What we're trying to get you to understand.
I'm listening to you.
Is that it's not this or that.
Right.
We have to have people who are good business people.
I agree.
Who become millionaires.
And I want to be that.
All right. We need people who are really good at business, and that's one. You need people in the education field. You need people in the legislative and the legal kinds of field. But we need to define the goals in each of these areas that we call critical at this point, so that we're not fumbling around in the dark. Right now, it's like turning out all of these lights and expecting people to see us on TV. Well, it's not going to happen. Or you turn off the mic and expect them to hear us. It's not going to happen. What we need to do is to understand and respect the fact that we are not all going to think alike. We are not all going to have the same priorities, but we fit somewhere in the scheme of things, regardless of whether or not we're in the politics or we're in the economics or we're on 28 or whatever. If this 28, for example, I'd turn this sucker into one of the best TV programs in the country, with all kinds of innovations. Not just you sitting here and we sitting here and talking about what we woulda, coulda, shoulda, but look at the news. Where do we get our news? You know, everybody gives opinions.
Right.
I'm talking about straight, flat news.
Right.
How do you tell your parents, which you could do through this medium, how to educate, how to help your children learn? And there are products out there, there's ways and methodologies. How do you get involved in the things that Jim's talking about in terms of the ongoing problems of legislation and issues and all of that? But how do you do that? You know?
And that's a good point. That's my question. How can I consider? I mean, there are a few I think of good business people. For the purpose of Black History Month, this is the conversation. How do they get into the economic game here in the city, county, and state? You know, because so many of us are boxed out. So many people do have great ideals. Some people do have good, some people do, Mayor.
How many guys are in business belong to the Chamber of Commerce?
I don't know, I am.
How many people belong to, well, when I go to the meetings, I don't see.
Yeah,
now,
I'm
talking about the Chamber of Commerce, or like
I agree with you.
You were at the Committee of 100 the other night, right?
I agree
when
with
I spoke.
And shame on them. And shame on them.
I could see you and Xanthia all the way in the back, and one lady sitting here who were African American. 3.
Right.
Okay. You have to get involved in the community.
But that's the question you're asking. That's
just part of it.
Right.
But the other part of it is that the re-energizing the traditional, what Jim had talked about earlier, the traditional institutions that are already within the African American community, and how we wish to set the goals and approach those goals, so that it's not always you have to agree to achieve.
Oh, I agree with that. What was the bill? What was the bill that you had where the banks had to put a certain amount? DFAC, whatever.
DCRAC. It wasn't a bill. It was we had a
organization,
citizen advocacy group called the Delaware Community Reinvestment Action Council, which sought and had some success in getting the banks to adhere to statutes that were already on the books. You know, there's a federal law which says you can't discriminate against people in terms of credit just because of where they live. And so that was an effort to get the banks to be responsive to existing law, federal law. But I want to go back to your question about, your point about the need for more economic development. Yeah, we do need that, but we've got a lot of institutions within the African American community who need to realize the importance of supporting our own and providing more support to existing businesses and those that come into existence. And we don't have, we haven't yet, in terms of the kind of self-help responsibility that I'm attempting to describe here, we haven't yet, as an African American community, come to the point of seeing the necessity of better supporting our own, better supporting the entrepreneurs that do exist, helping to create new ones. And yeah, there are things that we need to get the state to do to, and the county and the city to better support economic development as it would affect African Americans in general. But at the same time, we've got to also accept the fact that there are resources within the African American community, organizations and churches and institutions that we have control over that could better support economic development, better support African American entrepreneurs, help to create new ones, and that's a goal that we've got to work harder to achieve.
Okay. Albert, if you could put the number up, I'm going to open up the phone lines, and I hope that we have some intelligent and interesting phone callers, because very rarely do we get a chance to get you guys on here at the same time and to get some good questions and ask you about some past and present and future questions. I think that's great. Let me ask you guys another question, since I've been asking so many good questions. I feel like a great interviewer here. Let me ask you another question. There's 2012 election coming up. A lot of folks are talking about being mayor.
Yeah.
Do they really know what they're getting into?
No. I mean, a lot of the people.
Hey, I'll put the phone number up so we can open up the phone lines. And
it's no. I don't think that a lot of people talk about it and want to.
Is he in there?
Like but I don't think a lot of people understand what it is entailed. You're an administrator. You have very specific functions that you got to take care of, and then it spreads out. You've got 5 unions you've got to deal with. You got your non-union employees. That's just one. You got your budget. You got the water sewer system that constantly costs tons of money to keep them up, because you have to provide good, safe water, and you also have to dispose of waste, stormwater or otherwise. So that's part of your responsibility overlooking that. You got the police, you got the fire, you've got L&I that goes out. We're regulatory in most of our activities. You got Parks and Recreation, which we've, over the years, Parks and Recreation.
So you're basically saying they need to understand this totality of stuff the next man needs to understand.
The beauty of being on council, for example, is that you can argue any narrow point of view you want. That's what the difference between administrative and legislative. Legislators can pick their issues. Mayors can't. They're there.
Well, and I would add, obviously we've got a African American citizen majority in Wilmington, and symbolically there's an argument that says we should continue to have an African American mayor. If he or she is qualified, as I'm sure there are people who are qualified. But our thinking has to go beyond electing an African American mayor. Our thinking has to go beyond having political control of a city. We've got to have more influence on those other governmental bodies that I mentioned earlier, county councils, state government, U.S. Congress. And so that suggests that organizationally we've got to think beyond just having African American elected officials,
right,
and come to feel that that's the answer.
Wow.
Because it's not.
Yeah, it's not the end, because you're limited also, whatever position you're in, you're limited by law, and you've got to deal with that budget and all the other things that go along with it. What we don't understand is that when the mayor comes into the room, it's all over the map. Why aren't we got this and that and the other? The governor can come into the room, the county executive can come into the room, the council, the senators and all that, and all they have to do is say, "Hi, glad to see you folks. Thanks for your support. You know, I really am working hard in Washington. I'm really working hard in Dover. I'm really..." And that's it.
And everybody's agreeing. I tell you, let me get the phone lines. Anyone who is missing this show, shame on you. This is one of the best shows that I've ever been a part of, and it's incredible. It's an incredible feeling. I mean, because I respect you guys so much, and you know, privately I've told you guys again, and publicly, even if we've disagreed and behind closed doors we've argued, but you know, but that's what it's about.